The broadcast, the second day of May 2018. Ktn Prime begins right now. Let's begin right here in Nairobi at Parliament Buildings. President Uhuru Kenyatta is challenging Kenyans to embrace peace and reconciliation. While delivering his State of the Nation address at Parliament Building, the president cautioned politicians to end their unrestrained political competition. And as our senior political affairs reporter Chris Nairo now reports, the president also commended the opposition leader Raila Odinga for his efforts to reconcile the country since their now famous handshake.
It was the first State of the Nation address in the 12th Parliament by President Uhuru Kenyatta since his re-election in October last year, with his address coming in the backdrop of the famous handshake with opposition leader Raila Odinga. The president's speech was that of reconciliation, asking Kenyans to unite.
All of us, and in particular we leaders, have to admit that last year we failed in our duty to preserve the unity of this country, and we must make amends. First, I pray that all of us will spend the days and weeks after this address repairing the bonds that frayed last year. Let us shake hands and embrace our neighbors.
While noting that Kenyans lost their lives after the hotly contested presidential election last year, the president asked politicians to apologize to Kenyans for failing to unite the country and only focusing on unrestrained political competition.
Never again should a Kenyan life be lost for politics' sake. Never again should Kenyans' property be destroyed on account of politics. But, honorable members, we must also be frank with ourselves that that will not just happen on its own.
The president also acknowledged the efforts by both him and Raila Odinga in uniting the nation since the handshake that has also seen the establishment of a 14-member team to help in the implementation of the unity deal.
We also learned again a hard truth. Neither peace nor unity are a given. We must work for them. I say so because I believe last year taught me, that if we don't put an end to unrestrained political competition, it will put an end to Kenya.
On his Agenda 4, which includes better housing, affordable healthcare, food security and manufacturing, the president asked the politicians to focus on delivery rather than politicking.
Also during our period, complemented county service delivery in the reporting year by injecting Kenya shillings 9.6 billion for the managed equipment services, Kenya shillings 5.2 billion for free maternity, and Kenya shillings 900 million for user fees. Moreover, 2 billion shillings was distributed to 11 counties from the Equalization Fund to improve services.
The president also asked the judiciary to help in the fight against corruption in expediting the pending corruption cases. In his first term, the president sacked 6 of his cabinet secretaries linked to corruption. And after that speech by the president that called on all Kenyans to embrace peace and reconciliation, members from both houses, the National Assembly and the Senate, will spend the next 4 sittings debating the president's speech. However, the National Assembly is expected to go on recess tomorrow for a whole month. Chris Nairo, KTN News at Parliament Buildings.
So President Kenyatta has delivered his State of the Nation address addressing Kenyans today, and it was to a receptive parliament compared to the acrimony of yesteryears. Here are some of the key reactions to Kenyatta's speech.
The President's speech today was excellent. I must say excellent, particularly on the part of national reconciliation. I like the part that he said that none of us as leaders would stand and claim that you've not wronged your other person and what have you. You know, political competition in this country has been heightened to tribal competition. And I think the President captured the mood and the exact reasoning of Kenyans.
I think it's one of the greatest speeches that we've had coming from the President, and more particularly, the fact that the President asked for forgiveness. That one has really touched me, and I believe it has touched many Kenyans. That is the beginning of the healing for this nation.
Kenya has become united. Kenya has become more peaceful. Kenya now is more positively looking forward, and that is what has been lacking. There's nothing this country can make without the unity.
We are supporting this initiative of building the bridges, but again, he has not touched on the inclusivity of the youth in that team.
You know, at least he's beginning to talk about my constituency, which is basically persons with disability constituency. And I'm happy that it came out of him, and talking about how the government is devolving functions, basically that were denied, especially the NHIF, NSSF, and these other extremely important components.
The issue of fighting corruption is also an impressive part of his speech, because what is derailing Kenya is corruption. If Kenyans can earn, if they can build the economy without corruption, that will have gone a long way in helping Kenyans.
We have not shown to Kenyans and the world that there is a person in Kenya who is guilty of corruption. So therefore, I would have expected the new DPP to be given certain directives about investigation.
Parliament building was abuzz with activity in anticipation for the arrival of President Uhuru Kenyatta ahead of the State of the Nation address. Our reporter Caroline B. caught a glimpse of what happens behind the scenes in our reports.
As the clock ticked outside Parliament, awaiting the arrival of President Uhuru Kenyatta, the symbol of national unity stood tall. Besides it swayed the EAC flag and the joint service flag of the Kenya Armed Forces, an indication this was an important day for the country.
I have a right to protect my brother. Our people are suffering. I'm not making noise.
At the gate, security forces kept vigil as journalists tried to get the best footage. The roads leading to the August House were barricaded, and the public had to find alternative routes. Only political figures and other accredited persons were allowed to use the roads. Then the presidential saluting dais and the red carpet arrived. The presidential security forces spent valuable time sweeping the already clean dais. Even a slight piece of dirt had no chance. It was then sprayed, maybe to give it a fresh scent or a shimmering look. Before long, the man of the hour arrived, escorted by his usual presidential motorcade. He was received by top government officials, including his deputy, William Ruto. After the national anthem, President Kenyatta inspected a guard of honor. So orderly is the parade, an indication of the intense training for the forces.
Your Excellency, may I have your permission to carry on with the parade? Sir, please.
Once he was done with the parade, the national anthem was sung for the final time. Then the parade and the assembly was concluded. President Kenyatta was now ready to give his State of the Nation address.
Things you may have missed this afternoon during President Uhuru Kenyatta's first address, State of the Nation address, after being sworn in for his second term. Let's take a quick commercial break here on KTN Prime this Wednesday night. We're back shortly with more for you. Don't go too far.